We welcome in Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike D joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. All right, so Mike D, we had talked about the Saints' first-round pick, and like, how in love are you? How good of a player do you think Jeremiyah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, is or can be in the NFL, Mike D?
He's sort of a combination Bijan Robinson, Reggie Bush. He's a big time player, barring any serious injury. With him, as you see the tremendous burst at the line of scrimmage, his ability to pull away from players in the open field. He runs hard between the tackles. Tremendous receiver coming out of the backfield. I know two coaches on that staff at Notre Dame, and they praise him for his work ethic, his attention to detail, spending all that time in the film room, working out in the weight room by himself, always trying to get better, and he's been a really strong team leader for Notre Dame. So he's got all the intangibles and also the physical tools to be a big-time player at the NFL level. And, I get them like you do. Oh, you can get them type backs in the 6th, 7th round. Yeah, right. Every once in a while you do get a Terrell Davis. But those guys are few and far between. If you look back in the history of the National Football League, the top 20 rushers in the NFL, 17 of them were first-round picks. 17 of the top 20 rushers in NFL history were first-round picks. 2 of them went in round 2. One of them is still playing today, Derrick Henry. And there was 1 third-round pick, Frank Gore. And think about Frank, he tore his ACL up not once but twice at Miami of Florida. Not only had a great career, but longevity in this league for Frank. So it does go to show you, and I've tried to talk about this on WWL on my show. Think about the great running backs in Saints history. Okay? You can go back from start to finish. Chuck Muncie, first-round pick. George Rogers, first-round pick. Deuce McAllister, first-round pick. Mark Ingram, first-round pick. Reggie Bush, first-round pick. My buddy Richie Pettibone, I had him on last year. Longtime NFL player and then coached him forever with the then Washington Redskins as a defensive coordinator. He was talking about Alvin Kamara and how much of a outlier he was to have the career he's had, and he was a third-round pick. That, again, most of those top backs in this league have been first-round or early second-round picks. And the Saints had them, too. Tony Galbraith was a terrific player. I was in my teens to watch him. And then Dalton Hilliard at LSU.
I remember him.
And what Dalton was able to do for New Orleans. But every once in a while, yes. Do you get a Pierre Thomas who was an undrafted free agent? That does happen. But, Bo, I'm just telling you, for the most part, it ends up being that first or very early second-round selection. So that's why I think he's going to be highly coveted as a back in this draft class. There are not the multitude of backs that we've seen in other years. There are good backs, but you're talking about a guy that can maybe have a team build around his talent level. There are very few like that. He's one of them. He's that good.
I love it. Mike Detillier, NFL Insider, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. We're talking Jeremiyah Love. We're talking Saints first-round pick. Is it 8 or 9? 8? Okay.
It's 8.
And Mike told us last week if Jeremiyah Love's on the board, he believes that the Saints will either draft him or he'll be in strong consideration at that point. Now, Mike D, I know anything can happen, but do you expect him to be on the board at number 8?
I would say probably not.
Oh,
And I think if you want him, you may have to go up and get him.
I got you. Okay.
I just
Okay.
think that may be a situation where you have such a strong feeling for him as a player that you got to go up and get him. If it's the 5 or 6, it's not a big jump, but it's a big enough jump that you want to make sure you get him. Now, a lot of this will be determined by what the Saints do in free agency. I can't see them spending a ton of money on a running back. I'll be honest with you, because they got a lot of money still tied up with Alvin Kamara at running back. Are you going to spend a lot of money on a veteran back like a Kenneth Walker from Seattle? Travis Etienne would be interesting, but Travis is a Louisiana guy. Les Miles was pursuing someone else, and he ended up not getting Travis, and he goes to Clemson. Coach Hill tried to get him. That was the coaching change midseason that year, but Travis had made up his mind that he was headed out of state. Goes to Clemson, has a great career there, and has been a good back when he's been healthy with Jacksonville, though he's been nicked up some. So we'll see what happens in free agency, but always believe the free agency part tells you sort of where you're going to go on draft day. So if the Saints don't pursue a Walker or an Etienne, which would be costly in today's market, then I could see them making a move up to try to get Jeremiyah Love.
And when do they address the offensive line? Is it free agency or is it right after, let's say they move up or land Jeremiyah Love? Is that their next couple of picks in the draft? How do you see that, Mike D?
No, hell no. I ain't picking no offensive lineman. You got to go out and get a veteran guy in free agency. This team's used so many first-round picks on offensive linemen. I think you have to go out and get yourself a veteran offensive guard on the left side. I think they're going to give Cesar Ruiz probably another year at that right guard position because they paid him, and they paid him a ton of money. A big key for the Saints is getting Ruiz to play better and also to get Eric McCoy healthy. Eric McCoy is one of the top 3 centers in the NFL when he's healthy. The problem is the last 2 years he's missed considerable time with different injuries, and so you got to get him healthy. You've got your 2 tackles, left and right on that end, so you got to go out and get your left guard. And I would spend my money on veteran free agency to fill that void. And if you're going to pick a lineman, you can pick him in the middle of the draft and try to get a guy that can be a swingman at both guard and center for the Saints. But no, first-round pick on a lineman, offensive lineman, no.
Okay. All right, Mike D's talking NFL draft on the Out of Bounds show, powered by Sound and Communications. If you need a video wall for your school or business or hotel, soundcomav.com. Sound and Communications, the leader when it comes to video walls for your business, school, or church. Mike D on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Mike, I want to go over the quarterbacks again. Okay, so let's just do a couple outside of the, 2 or 3 outside the top 2. So Fernando Mendoza, number 1 to the Raiders. Ty Simpson at some point in the first round. And then how do the next 1, 2, or 3 look on your board, Mike D?
I think Nussmeier comes into play here in round 2. This is a quarterback-starved league. And somewhere along the line, I think he has been able to recapture some of what, he lost during the season due to injury. Garrett's smart player, genetics, okay, with his dad, and being a coach and a former player himself. I think he ends up somewhere in round 2. Carson Beck, I think will probably end up being the fourth guy selected. There are some teams out there that really like Carson. And again, a bit of a checkered career at Georgia, had some hot and cold moments at Miami or Florida, but he's a big quarterback, strong arm. His accuracy skills sort of stock market, up and down. But I think he's thrown the football on rhythm and on balance much better this year than I've seen him in years past. So I think Beck ends up being the fourth guy. So I think it'll be Nussmeier and Carson Beck going 3-4.
Okay. Mike D on the Out of Bounds show. What do you think? We're talking Saints, what they'll do, what Loomis and crew will do. Will Jeremiah Love be there at 8? Or as Mike said, do they need to move up 2 to 4 spots? And what will they have to give up to make sure that they secure him and give Tyler Shuck an absolute dude at running back? And then Mike's like, hey, free agency is where you go get an offensive lineman or two, a proven dude who's been in the league. Mike, what grade would you give the front office for the Saints post Sean Payton? And everything, hiring coaches, drafting, free agency.
That would be a toughie because that was a total whiff with Dennis Allen. It didn't work. You wanted to try to keep continuity, and it didn't work. And most of the time, I'm not for promoting from within. That has rarely worked in this league, and even in college football, rarely has worked to promote from within. And even the Super Bowl champs, look what they did when they lost their offensive coordinator. They go outside the fray to pick, and they had some really good candidates there in Seattle. I think that was a huge mistake with Dennis Allen. And I think Dennis is a really good defensive coach. The problem is, as a head coach, it is totally different running the big room than the small room. And at that level, you better have somebody that can handle those responsibilities, and also to the void left by Peyton. No matter how you want to avoid that.
Absolutely.
He was a huge presence as a head coach. And Dennis's personality and Sean's totally different in the way they handle things. So that one was a misfire totally. And this team has missed on a ton of early round selections, first and second round picks, from Peyton Turner to Isaiah Foskey. I mean, you can kind of go on and on. Marcus Davenport was a good player when he was healthy. The problem is it cost you a ton to get him because you had to move up to get Davenport. And he's hell when he's well. The problem was keeping him well. And that has continued in the NFL with injury situations with Marcus.
Goodness gracious. All right.
But last year was different. Last year was different because in one draft class, if you can get your starting left tackle and your starting quarterback, you've got something there. In any draft, if you can get a left tackle, a good one, which I think Banks is, and Shuck at quarterback, you have really hit big. No matter.
Did the Gremlins get Mike D? All right. We'll try to get Mike D back. WWL Radio, TV New Orleans, NFL insider Mike Detillier on the show, powered by Sound and Communications. Your next video wall for your business, your next video wall for your conference room, your lobby, hospital, CPA firm, technology firm, your high school, college, powered by Sound and Communications. They've been doing it for over 60 years. SoundcomAV.com. Power 5 programs, G5 programs, junior colleges, high schools, churches, powered by Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com. They do great work. They put up our video wall. And they did all the stuff for Martins and Livingston and so on. All right, we got Mike D back on the show. And so, Mike, you were talking about how they finally hit last year?
Yeah, they finally hit. When you get a left tackle and a quarterback in one draft class,
Amen.
You have done something there. That's just like having a recruiting class and you land your starting quarterback and left tackle. Yeah, if you handle some of the other things are great, but get that's huge for any college or pro team. And it was a sort of emphasis at LSU with Lane Kiffin. He did the exact same thing. And he brought it up numerous times about, if you want to figure out how to piece together teams in college football, there's no better example than what they do in the pros. They've had free agency in the draft for a long time more than college football has. And for him to go out and get a Seton, and then what he did at the quarterback position with Levitt and Longstreet, I mean, you hit there. And so for the Saints, it's been a bit of a mixed bag of really bad and then last year hitting on a really good draft class. And you think of some of the other guys they got, a Danny Stutzman, a Quincy Riley, a Jonas Sanker, even Devin Neal, who I think is a good number 2 back in the league. He's not a starter, but I think he would be a good number 2 back. They did really well come draft time. But before then, man, you can't give them a passing grade at all with all the misses they've had, and especially in the first and second round.
Mike, I've only got a couple of minutes here. Will listeners, you do Afternoon Drive, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, will listeners be freaking out over LSU's baseball loss last night?
Well, they freaked out last week when they lost to McNeese. So I think they got it out of their system. But baseball is so many games, just so many in a season, that you're going to have some clunkers. And last night was that. I think the one thing, the angst that they have today, that LSU's bats, after a super hot start, have gone cold. They won 3 in a row over the weekend, but they did it with their pitching, which is maybe the best pitching staff overall at LSU. They don't have a Paul Skeens, but overall, and with William Smith, who I think is a budding young star, they maybe have the most depth in the pitching department that they've had in the Jay Johnson era. But the bats have went cold. And that happens. It is baseball. And I think last week was the freak out. This week, there'll be some complaints, but not like it was last weekend. I give Jay Johnson a lot of credit. He came on the show the next day. We had him scheduled for the day after they lost to McNeese.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he was, hey, no problem. And he came on. And so, listen, a lot of coaches, they would have had a pass on that. They wouldn't have wanted to do it. But Coach Johnson, supremely confident guy in what he does.
Yeah.
Understands this is a long, long baseball season. And staying healthy and getting hot late are the things, because last year when they did it with Ianson and Cade Anderson, it was like a 2-man pitching staff that they got. The hitting got hot late for LSU, along with Cade and Ianson pitching. But this year's staff has gotten a little bit more depth to it, and they got a closer in Gavin Guidry, who's really good. Really, really good. He's a weekend guy, though. That midweek stuff, that's for somebody else.
Oh, man. I love it. Mike D on the Out of Bounds show. All right, Mike D, appreciate you. We'll talk next week.
We'll do it. Thank you, Bo.
That was good. Heavy New Orleans Saints NFL draft. He thinks Saints are going to have to move up to get Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. And, man, he said, a combo of Bijan Robinson and Reggie Bush. You'll take that behind Tyler Shuck every day of the week. And he says, hell no on drafting an offensive lineman in the first round. Got to go get one or two proven guys in free agency.
Right.
Okay. So the Saints sitting at 8. What we don't know, but what would it take to get to 5?
Depends on the what's been leaked, who's leaking what, who's hearing what, who's believing what, right? Because they're just going to throw a bunch of smoke screens.
I don't think there's any question that everybody's doing that. Every agent who has a player who could be drafted in the top 10 or even maybe top 15 is doing that. No doubt. And teams are doing the same thing as far as what they would do or may not do. The Out of Bounds Show is powered by Total Transportation of Mississippi. They're offering nationwide and regional routes, all right, for solo and team drivers. Powered by TotalMS.com. TotalMS.com. Apply today. Right there on the front page. TotalMS.com. And the show is brought to you by Taste Italian Kitchen and the Renaissance. Unbelievable dining experience. Taste Italian Kitchen.com to make a reservation. We'll be back in a minute.